opportunity to play North Carolina. Certainly the most talented team in our league and one of the most talented in the country. They have incredible front line with Zeller, Henson, and Barnes, three guys that can all affect the games in a lot of different ways. Zeller and Henson can both do it defensively around the basket. Zeller's a tremendous offensive post player. Henson, I think, a guy who's really improved and one of the best defensive players in the country. And unfortunately, we know what Harrison Barnes can do. We saw that firsthand last year. And then Kendall Marshall's a guy who I really like. I think he's a player that makes other guys better. His basketball IQ and passing ability are as good as anybody I've ever seen in college. He just has a tremendous feel for playing with pace and playing with poise and knowing how to lead other guys into baskets. So tremendous challenge for us in terms of trying to slow them down offensively. They are a great transition team, tremendous offensive rebounding team, and combine that with talented players. It's no surprise that they're having a good year.
Questions?
How do you combat their length that they have?
It's hard. This is a game where we're undersized at every position, and it sometimes proves to be problematic because you could be in good positions defensively and they just score over top of you. You just got to try to push them out a little bit farther than they're comfortable. Our smaller guys at times have got to try to get up under them and make them a little uncomfortable. Having said that, it's hard to do because they're so good. Their skills are so good. They're so physically strong. But that's, it's one of the reasons why they're as good as they are and why a lot of those guys will be playing at the next level is they have the size and length that you need to be able to be successful there.
Tanner mentioned they can almost turn a made basket into a transition opportunity.
Yeah, the way they play, as soon as you score, they're immediately out. They don't have to worry as much about defensive rebounding as some teams maybe because Henson and Zeller are so big. Barnes is a big wing, and so they can start to cheat out a little bit on some things, and if you happen to score, they got a head start on you. And then Kendall Marshall's an incredible passer. He regularly throws 40 and 50-foot advanced passes up the court to wings for shots or to post players for dunks. And it just that combined with the pace that they play makes it very difficult to stop them.
Were you aware of the streak before you ever got to Clemson?
I was, because basically every time you turn on a Carolina-Clemson game, that's the first thing they open with. So, I'm sure from spending time in North Carolina, watching games every once in a while, you can't help but hear about it. No, it's not anything that we talk about with our players or any of those kinds of things. We just talk about strengths and weaknesses of North Carolina. Aren't many weaknesses, so we talk about a lot of their strengths and try to put together a plan to win the game.
What are the weaknesses?
Weaknesses. They don't have a lot of guys playing right now. They've got several of their guys are hurt, so they're only playing about 6 or 7 guys, and it's not that problematic for them. But you hope that maybe you can wear them down a little bit. Having said that, they don't slow their style down because they're playing with 6 or 7 guys. They still come at you, and they have older guys, so. They're older guys, their big guys are older, so they're not young guys that are still trying to find their legs or anything. They're very sure of themselves and they're confident. And, it's a team that I think is beginning to show and is probably at the point where they're trying to turn it up a little bit to get themselves cranked up for the ACC tournament, NCAA tournament. So I expect them to really be playing well and start to get on a little bit of a run.
How much confidence you take from the fact you played them 3 times really well last year, and a lot of guys had experience playing close to
A little bit. It helps a little bit that, you know, some of the guys that played last year were part of games that were good games against North Carolina, but this year's team's a lot different. You know, unfortunately, we lost a lot. They really didn't lose a lot. And so this year's team is different. Our identity is different. But it does help a little bit that some of our guys were in the thick of it against them and some really good games. And hopefully they can draw from some of the positive experiences they had in those games where they played well.
Two things that always sort of characterize him are one, the way he plays, obviously, and number two, all the talent they get. So when you prepare for him, which of those, do you go more by the style of play and then try to figure out the talent, or is it you have to pay attention to the talent?
Well, you have to do both, but I think, you know, we certainly have to pay attention to their style of play. You know, for 2 days we've practiced against, you know, transition defensive drills and, you know, do things like when we run a set or when we run offense and score, either don't have the other team take the ball out of bounds, just grab it and go, or have a second ball, you know, with a coach with the second ball under the basket and, you know, just tell the team that's on defense to take off and initiate with the coach, you know, throwing the ball to the point guard immediately to save a few seconds. And then, you know, we've also done some other things defensively to just work to get back. But you certainly have to prepare for the style, you know, because it is different than other people. The talent you can't do much about. You still just try to work on tendencies like you would for any game. You talk about guys' favorite moves and favorite, you know, plays and all those kinds of things. You know, North Carolina isn't an overly complicated team in how they play. You know, they have added a few more actions this year than maybe last year, but, you know, again, it's not the actions that beat you. It's, you know, the way they play, their style fits their personnel. Their personnel is obviously outstanding, and they do what they do very well. And I think when you have, you know, really good talent, really good players, you don't have to worry as much about changing all different kinds of things. I think you can just kind of do what you do and play to your strengths, and, you know, and things normally, if you play well, are going to work out for you. You know, it's when you're a little undermanned, then you got to come up with more strategy and do different things and maybe not do exactly what you would do if you were playing somebody else. So they just get really good at doing what they do, and they do it through the course of, you know, it's not just, you know, 1 year usually, but if you go back and look primarily, they're still running a lot of the same things that they've run for 15, 20 years. I mean, it's not, there's a few new actions, but the basic premise of what they do is very similar to what they've been doing there, so kids do it their whole careers and get good at it.
So you're the guy a little bit undermanned who has to out-strategize him.
Yeah, it's not, that doesn't work out real well usually.
Because he's seen everything several times, so you're not going to surprise him.
No, you're not going to do anything that's drastically, you know, I mean, they played 26 games and there have been 26 teams trying to do something, you know, different to slow them down. You just try to go with a plan and have an idea of what you want to do in the game, and there are certain things you know you can try to stop, and there are other things you just can't worry about, and sometimes you got to give up one thing to stop another, and because they're so good, there are certain things that you might give up in the game against them that you would try to guard both against another team, which you're not going to guard either one of them if you just do that. So you got to try to stop one or the other. Now if they, you know, the other goes bad, you might be in for a long night, but that's just the way you have to play it a little bit sometimes when you play these guys.
Y'all have pushed the tempo recently, I guess in the interest of slowing them down. Do you?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I you know, it's not easy to score on those guys sometimes either. Now they get all set. I think if we have numbers and we can go, we got to go. We got to try to go score and be aggressive when we can. We're not going to just try to walk it up every possession and, you know, play the game in the 30s. I don't think you can play the game in the 30s against them, but you know, we do have to be a little careful with quick shots. We have to be a little careful that the shots that we take early are good ones, and that's not easy to do. You're going to take one or two that are going to be a little wild every once in a while if you're going to go play. But at the same time, we need to, you know, we have to take care of the ball. You know, we got to have a low turnover number. We got to have a high shooting percentage night. And then we have to play great defense. I mean, you know, we have to have a lot of things go well.
Any other questions for Coach?